Is there still value in buying junk silver? Stacking Cat. Welcome to the Stacking Cat channel, where I talk all things silver with a little bit of gold. If you want to see more of this type of content, then please subscribe and push that notification bell. If you enjoy this video, then hit that like button. Hey there, everybody. How are you guys all doing today? Today we're going to talk about some junk silver and whether there is still value to it when it comes to stacking. And I don't mean the intrinsic value, of course, which is the silver which is contained inside, which is 90%, that we all know. Anything that is pre-1964 does carry that 90% silver distinction, and that is the intrinsic value. So it is all silver. I do not want to talk about that, but I'm going to talk about the value of junk silver when it comes to things like premiums and how much you are paying for it now compared to how much you may have been paying for it just like a year and a half ago, and how it's really kind of changed the foundational approach that I have taken and that maybe a lot of you have stopped doing as well, or just changed. So we will get into all of that, and let's get into really quick, what is junk silver? Like I just said, it is all silver, US currency, minted in 1964 or before that. It is 90%, and if you want to ever calculate how much that you have, $10 worth of junk silver, so like 20 of these Kennedy halves, for example, come out to 7.15 ounces. So if you want to calculate it, you just multiply the amount face by 0.715. That is, of course, the universal standard or metric when it comes to calculating junk silver. Just because of wear and tear over the years, all this stuff is at the very least 56 years old or 57 years old at that point. So that's how you calculate the amount of ounces that you have. And if you want to calculate the value, you take that number and multiply it by whatever the spot price happens to be. So that is how it is calculated. So I do want to get into, though, why it might not be that good of a buy anymore compared to where it was just, like I said, a year or a year and a half ago, when you could buy this stuff for spot in some circumstances, maybe 49 cents over, at the most like $1 over. Your local coin shop, you can go in and kind of rummage through it and kind of decide, what do you want? Do you want some Washington quarters here? There we go. Or dimes or half dollars, whatever it may be. You would go in there and you would get a price, and it would usually come down to, depending on your LCS, around $1 over. A lot of the online dealers were doing the same thing. And when you went to sell it back, you might not even get spot for it, maybe a little bit under. Maybe you would. It would depend on who you were selling it back to, but it was a very cheap option, a way to build a foundation without breaking the bank. And it was, it still is widely accepted everywhere you go. Junk silver, 90%, is always going to be there. A lot of times these shops, maybe they would take it and send it off to the refiners and make their money that way. But now the demand is super high, so the prices have gone up significantly. I will bring a few prices up here on some of the online sites. We'll bring up Monument Metals, which is the best price right now at $6.49 over. You can see it's $24 plus over for spot, and that is doing that same calculation to see how many ounces you have, if you want to determine it that way. And then SD Bullion, you can see, is $6.35 over. So still over that $6 range. And I'll stop it right there because most of them are all in the same position price-wise. Now, there is anecdotal evidence that you could go to a local coin shop and still find this stuff cheap. I've had comments where commenters have mentioned that they are still paying only like $1 or two over, so you always have that opportunity. But on the grander scale, it just seems like this 90% is getting a little bit out of hand in price, especially when you could buy something like a Krugerrand here for under $5 over spot, or a Philharmonic for maybe right around $5, $5.30, $5.29, something like that. And you could even get yourself like a Canadian maple for about the same price as you would junk silver. And this will probably have more of a premium if you ever do decide to go sell it back. One of the main things about the 90% in the past compared to these government coins was the fact that you were able to get them so cheap. And it's, like I said, it's a foundation that a lot of us have started our stacks on because of that reason. And then, of course, nowadays, it's just a lot more difficult to pull off getting any type of good deal on this stuff. And it could come back in the long run with your dollar cost averaging and all that to end up not benefiting you in the way that you expect it to. If you ever do go and sell it back one day, if prices do calm down and you're paying way too much, you will never get that money back. And I know that a lot of people out there like to stack it because it is former US currency. It is backed up in that way. It's very hard to counterfeit. You don't see this stuff faked a lot. There's really no reason to, just because of what the price point is. I mean, a $0.50 only weighs 0.36 ounces. So I don't know why anybody would go ahead and do that. Although there could be fakes out there, so buyer beware. But for the most part, these 90% coins, this junk silver, is in a great spot. Now, I also want to compare it with American Silver Eagles. I think they're falling into the same boat here. Maybe not in the same exact category, but this is another foundational piece, especially if you're living here in the United States. And I'm not going to get into things like 10-ounce bars or generic rounds or anything, just because those don't really carry the same backing that these two. I just want to talk about it since they're both backed up by the U.S. government, by the United States Mint. And when you go to resell it or purchase it, you have that security. But is it really worth it to be purchasing this 90% right now at those prices? That's what you have to ask yourself. This whole idea really kind of came to me when I was doing the weekly deals videos, and I would see these prices and I would see Krugerrands for so much cheaper than the 90%. And it just made no sense. You have that's 3 nines fine or 4 nines fine in some of these instances, like with the Maple Leaf here, versus some 90% old circulated junk. And remember, junk silver just means it's not junk. It's no silver is really junk, but it just means that the silver or the coins cannot be graded. They are just in straight up circulated condition. So that's why you always got great prices on it. I do not know why the prices are so much higher right now than they always have been. I know it's because the premiums on everything else have really skyrocketed, but I don't know why these are so much out of whack. I would think they would be more in line with like your silver rounds or something like that, in the $4 to $4.50 range. But the fact that they're $6.50, $7 over spot is just a little absurd in my opinion. So maybe if you go to your local coin shop, if you have that ability, try to buy them there. But with the online guys, they are just way too high. I know the demand is really high for all silver, but I don't know why this would be any different than like a Philharmonic or a Krugerrand or something that you can get a lot cheaper. And especially when you go back to sell it one day, you'll have the same option or probably the same price payback as you would these. Then you would this junk silver, which you might even get more for like a Krugerrand. You'll certainly get more for a Maple when you go to sell it back. So you're going to end up losing out a little bit with that spread there. So that's always something to consider as well. And I still am a junk silver fan. I mean, look at it. I just poured out a fraction of what I own right here in it, but I was able to get it a lot cheaper. And I am not buying it currently just because of the price point. I haven't bought junk silver in probably since last summer, I want to say. And that's the reason why. And it's really a little disheartening because when I started stacking, this was really the first stuff that I was buying with some Eagles and some generic silver rounds. And it's like I mentioned earlier, it's just the foundation of stacking is this 90%. And the fact that the cost is so much higher now, it just doesn't make a lot of sense to have it as a foundational piece. I know that a lot of people still like stacking it. And remember, it's your stack. If you want to go out there and go ahead and do that, all out there to be aware of the different price discrepancies. and the fact that the value of purchasing it might not be quite where it once was. And that is definitely something that you want to think about in the future when you are buying silver. Always look at that premium. It is very important. You don't want to just buy it to buy it, and then you end up with a bunch of silver that you overpaid for. Always try to find these best deals. That's the rule of thumb that I subscribe to with my stacking strategy. So I hope that you guys will get a little bit out of this when it comes to that. And that will wrap things up then for this video. If you'd like to see similar videos about silver with a little bit of gold, then please subscribe and push that notification bell. Smash that like button and leave a comment. And until next time, this is the Stacking Cat.